Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. So, grab your balls and say it to her face. And this is me trying to challenge you guys because whenever you think about being in a sexless relationship, there's a series of behaviors that have caused you to end up in a sexless relationship. And there's a series of behaviors that you're doing right now that are keeping you in a sexless relationship. Now, when it comes to changing that, you have to start looking at the things that you're doing that are causing you to stay within a sexless relationship. And again, some of the things that you probably think are causing you to stay in there are probably not the things that are going to change you from. They're going to be counterintuitive. In fact, to change that, it's going to be counterintuitive to everything that you thought was true. So one of the things that's keeping you in a sexless relationship is definitely the fact that most people think not having arguments within a relationship is a good metric to measure what's going good within a relationship. And if I wish I could get $1 for every time somebody says the relationship is good, the only problem is that we do not have sex. And really, they don't realize that by them keeping that metric of everything is good, that's one of the things that's causing them to stay within a sexless relationship. And let me try and dive into a little bit deeper in the reason why. So I know when I used to work at a place, and one day one of the guys, he was working on a slicer. So I work as an engineer, by the way, if you don't know. So I work as an engineer, and I'm in charge of looking after this machine and make sure that it's safe. And then that's on a monthly check, so we'd have monthly checks for that. And then the person who's going to operate the machine has daily checks, so they would take off and say, okay, this safety feature is correct, this is correct. And because that's one machine out of many other machines, they had some score which then says we've had one day without any accidents, and then you would accumulate over a period of time. And that was just a measure to say we're doing all the checks that are going to prevent accidents. So they end up putting incentives of actually having to look at these numbers and say, okay, we've gone 50 days without an accident. Then everybody would celebrate, and then people would get bonuses because of it. And like, okay, you're going to get bonus. So in order for health and safety to be effective, you also have to report near misses, and the near misses would cause a reset to that number. So it became sort of a practice for people to not record those near misses, because like nobody really got injured, and nobody would say anything, and then it just got over to a point where things were not being done. So one time, somebody made a check on this machine, the slicer, and then I checked it as well, and I didn't see anything wrong. But again, that was a monthly check, so there was now a daily check that the other guy had to check, and over a period of time within that month, there was some damage that was happening to the thing, and as the guy was operating it. In fact, that day I'd already gone home, and I got a phone call from one of my friends. Said, "We're meant to go out." He said, "I can't go out. There's been a situation at work. One of the guys tried to remove something. His hand got caught in the belt, and it took him into a slicer and pretty much chopped off his fingers." And it was a terrible situation, absolutely horrible. And the reason why I'm saying this, and you're probably wondering, how does this correlate to the sexless relationship and everything that we're doing, is that you got this thing that you're keeping score of. We haven't had arguments in our relationship. We don't have too many friction moments. So therefore, our relationship is good. And based off of that example, is that as the more days that we had without an accident, it wasn't absence of something terrible being about to happen. So the fact that we're not reporting near misses, the fact that we're not addressing near misses, we're not addressing the potential of serious harm. We were just looking at the fact that we've hit 50 days, we've hit 100 days with no accident. It became a metric that was the causation of the next accident. So as you mark your relationship as being good because you have less arguments, you think that your relationship is good. But really what actually you're doing is, when you're tracking that, you're actually aiding yourself to stay within a sexless relationship. And here's why. The reason why is because in order for you to stay in a relationship where everything is good, somebody has to take a dominant frame and somebody has to take a submissive frame. So when you're supposed to put boundaries, don't put boundaries because you don't want to upset the balance, or at least upset that thing where your metric will get damaged. So over a period of time, you give up your balls. So you don't say when you need to say, you don't speak when you need to say. In fact, in order for you to change a sexless relationship, you have to have the ability to take the challenges that come into your life and be able to embrace them and use them to grow. In fact, I was speaking to a client today and saying, you have to have the ability to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when a situation arises within your relationship and there's some friction that's going on, you have to allow that friction to allow insecurities to come up inside her and inside you. And I even went further and said, you need to allow that to happen. And I was telling him about the client that I spoke to who, when those situations arises, instead of sitting in that uncomfortable situation, and I'm saying this because, again, there's some nuance to it. And the nuance is that when friction comes up, usually there's some uncomfortability. It's uncomfortable for her, and it's forcing her to have to look some insecurities. And when I say insecurities, these are things that are preventing it to grow in order for you guys to be collaboratively going the same direction. So when you encounter this challenge that is sort of coming before you go to the next step into your relationship, and every time you want to go to the next level, when you want to level up in your relationship, you will face some challenges, and you will see these challenges come up, and some insecurities will come up from her, insecurities will come up from you. And this is your opportunity to figure out what that is and what's causing it and why is it preventing you to actually getting closer. When you do so, it's all going to be uncomfortable. And generally, because you've got this metric that says we don't have fights, we don't have arguments, as a measure of a good relationship, it becomes destructive because you never have that uncomfortable place where you deal with insecurities. So this is why a lot of people struggle. In fact, I was laughing the other day and they said, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. I was like, that's not the scary metric. The scary metric is like at least 90% of people that are married are unhappily married because of this fucking thing here. Because society has decided the lack of fight. In fact, some people do fight, so they sort of go 6 months, nothing, and then they just burst out into weird emotion. And then what they tend to do is then go and apologize. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm overreacted and so on. And again, I'm not talking about that because that's toxic. What I'm talking about is when you come to a place where it's deadlocked. We need to move to the next level. You are uncomfortable because I'm pushing this because I want our relationship to be good. You are resisting it because you find it uncomfortable to actually go into the point where we're going into seduction or sex. There's something that is holding you back. And we need to figure out what that is in order for us to level up in our relationship. When this opportunity arises, most people sort of shy away from it because they just don't want to put that pressure on her. They don't want to allow that pressure to happen. And if they do put that pressure on her, what they tend to do, instead of sort of allowing the pressure to sort of sink into the relationship and allow the relationship to be under pressure for an extended period of time, they apologize it away. Almost like a piece of smoke is covering a relationship. Then you're trying to, fan it off. And you have to allow that smoke to settle and just allow that to happen. In fact, I was saying this, then when you have to imagine if you had a jar of water full of sand, when you shake it and then it just goes really, really cloudy. That's how you want it to be. You want this sort of chaos to happen in the relationship. And again, when I say chaos, I'm not saying be toxic and you're putting it down, talking it down. What I'm saying is just as you're having those conversations about where we need to go to the next level, when she turns around and says, oh, all you talk about is sex and all you want is sex and therefore you're a terrible person, that's a good emotion. You want that to happen. And like I said, I was saying to a client, you need to embrace it and say, yes, I am. And that all I want is about sex. And yes, all I want is sex from you. And that is how I want our relationship to be. And I'm dedicated to you. I'm devoted to you. And yes, this emotion that you're showing right now about this is exactly what I want. I just need you to figure out why that's not happening. And this is the reason why we're talking about it. And you never apologize for bringing it up. Because some of you guys, you bring it up and then you're apologetic for it. And every level of uncomfortability that you've brought to the relationship that is going to be good for your growth, you sort of apologize it away. You fan it away and just say, you know what, I'm really sorry that I made you feel uncomfortable. And then you never progress. Nothing never happens. And I hear people say, oh, I had the talk. We've had the talk so many times and nothing has ever happened. It's because some of you guys, when you do have the talk and she's uncomfortable, you feel bad for making her feel uncomfortable. And then you sort of apologize it all away. You almost discredit the very thing that you've put in terms of making you grow, you then discredit it straight away the moment you apologize. So I'm going to end it right here. I'm got a little bit too excited about this one. If you've got any questions, go to Thriving_Tribesmen in Instagram. And as you can tell, this one really got me riled up. I'm very excited about this one because there's a few guys that I took them through it, and it was a massive breakthrough. And I don't really know if I was as clear as I thought I was. Hopefully I was. But just to sum it up, is that you need to embrace challenges in your relationship. And I know that you are having a big challenge right now where it feels like it's you versus her. You need to get into a place where you're collaborative. And in order to be collaborative, it's going to require you guys to have very difficult conversations. And as you bring up those conversations, she's going to shame you in order to. And the shame and blame is just a tactic for you to stop bringing that intensity within that conversation. That's just a means of really trying to get out of it. So you have to be able to go through that, go past it. And as you go through it, it doesn't mean that when you go through it, the uncomfortability is going to go. This uncomfortability, you have to be ready to sit in it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days and allow that to be uncomfortable. Because the more she's uncomfortable, it's going to get her to look within. And then she will start saying, why is it that I'm resistant to trying to go into seduction with this man? It's obviously serious. And some of you guys say, I'm really serious about changing my relationship. The moment there's some uncomfortability over her, you're quick to swat it away. And she never ever feels why it's serious, because you're quick to quit the moment she gets a little bit frustrated. And you have to be okay with her being frustrated with you. You have to be okay with her being disappointed. Because again, she's got no problems to put you in your place. And she's got no problems to see you going for 6 to 10 months, 11 months, 2 years without sex. She's got no problem with it. And you can't even put her into a place where she's uncomfortable for 10 minutes? Fuck that. I'm going to go now. Take it easy, gentlemen. Take care.